Breaking tonight, President Trump's attorney, Rudy Giuliani, with some explosive allegations regarding the Michael Cohen tapes. Hello and welcome to Justice. I'm Jeanine Pirro. Thanks for being with us tonight. And thank you for once again making Justice the #1 rated show on all of cable news all last weekend. My opening statement in a moment, but first, Rudy Giuliani, within the hour, has told Fox News that experts have gone over the tape that former Trump attorney Michael Cohen allegedly made of conversations with the president. And Giuliani says, quote, somebody played around, close quote, with the tape. And he says the Trump legal team is still trying to get to the bottom of it. Among other things, Giuliani said he is trying to get access to the original full recording. A prospect Giuliani concedes is slim. And joining me now by phone on all of this breaking news is the man himself, President Trump's attorney, Mr. Mayor Rudy Giuliani. All right, good evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much for being with us this evening. Some shocking news tonight.
I guess, Judge, that we have to stop being shocked. I have to admit that I was. I always thought of Michael Cohen as a responsible guy, a guy who was basically honest and certainly was extremely loyal to the president, as the president was to him for many, many years. I used to hear rumors about him, about his character and some of the things he did. And now I find he does things like records his client, doesn't tell him. He abruptly ended that recording as soon as the president said the word check. We are now, what we're investigating is how did that happen? What actually did happen? What was eliminated? And then you've got to raise that question with every one of these tapes. How many of them did he play around with? I mean, the guy has like 180 tapes.
Well,
Lanny Davis, his lawyer, said he didn't intend to deceive. Well, I don't know who's a bigger liar. I mean, Lanny Davis has to confront the fact that with Chris Cuomo, he took his phone and he put it in the desk drawer and said, I'm not going to record it. What do you mean you're not intending to deceive?
Well,
I don't know. These people, these Clinton people, think they can just say something. He didn't intend to deceive, and we got him on tape putting it in the drawer.
Well, you know, Mr. President, Mr. Mayor, you and I both know you're a former prosecutor. I'm a former prosecutor. You've got to lay a foundation for the admissibility of any tape. And what struck me the first time I heard the tape, and we'll get to how CNN got it in a moment, was you have to, number one, make sure that it's admissible in evidence if it's recorded with the permission of one of the parties. And it was, because Michael Cohen recorded it. It was unethical because he's the lawyer, but that's another issue. Then we have to lay a proper foundation. Anyone listening to that tape knows that all of a sudden it's cut off, it's garbled at a crucial period of time when the president seems to be saying, no, you make a check out. We don't use cash.
Yes.
And nobody asked any questions about it. You and I both know they cannot tamper with this. But the only way for us to figure out if this is accurate is for you to get the original tape. How are you going to do that? Well,
we got to hope it exists. This could be a recording of a recording. We're not sure yet. That they can probably determine. I mean, you're right. We may never be able to determine that, but we have determined the fact that he tampered with the tape in the sense that he abruptly, mid-conversation, turned it off. Now, we know he didn't do that for a good reason, because a guy that goes into a reporter and hides his thing and says, I'm not taping it, and then is taping it for 2 hours, is definitely not someone who didn't intend to deceive, as Lanny Davis falsely said.
Well, in addition to that, he's lying, but that's another issue. You and I both know that in order for the government to admit something into court, they've got to show its continuing custody and that no changes, additions, or deletions have been made. If they cannot prove that there are no deletions or changes, and we don't know where it's been, could that be the reason that it was leaked to CNN? And do you have any idea how it got to CNN?
Well, isn't that interesting? Because last week at this time, Jay Sekulow and I were being accused of leaking it. Maggie Haberman, who got the story, to her credit, made it clear that it didn't come from us. There's only one other place it could come from, Cohen and Lanny Davis. And people wondered, well, why did they put it out? Because it's harmful to Cohen. I think they put it out because they wanted the doctored version to obscure whatever else might be on that tape, which will be I'm sure it'll be good for us. That, I think, is lost to us. It was never recorded in the first place. I was hoping he had possibly erased it and we could maybe recover it, but it was never recorded in the first place.
Well, you know, Mr. Mayor, everybody knows you can't tamper with stuff.
As you know, Judge, we can draw an inference from that it was favorable to us because of the way in which he was deceiving us.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Rudy Giuliani, I want to thank you for calling in with this break.
Great book, Judge.
Thank you.
I've gotten through half of it now. You gave me a copy.
Thank you.
Got through half of it. I bought my own to give about 3 or 4 of them out. Great book.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Right.
And I know you're going to have more to say tomorrow morning on Fox News Sunday.
I'll be on Chris Wallace tomorrow.
All right. And now to my opening statement. You know, Americans elected the outsider businessman president. Why? To borrow a phrase from the man himself, what do we have to lose? The economy was in the tank. Our kids were living in the basement because they couldn't find a job. Factories were closing down. Jobs in manufacturing were being shipped overseas. And in trade, China was sucking us dry. The Obama folks called it a healthy economy, but there was barely a pulse. 1% annual GDP growth was the new normal for these bozos. And President Obama even warned that Donald Trump's election would result in economic disaster for all Americans.
Because some of those jobs of the past are just not going to come back. And when somebody says, like the person you just mentioned, who I'm not going to advertise for, that he's going to bring all these jobs back. Well, how exactly are you going to do that? What are you going to do? There's no answer to it. He just says, well, I'm going to negotiate a better deal. Well, how exactly are you going to negotiate that? What magic wand do you have? And usually the answer is he doesn't have an answer.
Because I want you to tell your friends, don't let a friend vote Trump. So here's the deal. He can't escape the math. Now, you know, math can be kind of inconvenient if it doesn't add up the way you want it to. And economists, left, right, in the middle, all say the same thing, that Trump's policies would throw us into a recession, the last thing we need. He would undermine the growth that we've had since the Great Recession.
In the event Donald wins, I have no doubt in my mind the market tanks.
His tax plan, in combination with his refusal to reform entitlements and to honestly address spending, would balloon the deficit and the national debt. So even though Donald Trump has offered very few specific economic plans, what little he has said is enough to know that he would be very bad for American workers and for American families.
And then there was Paul Krugman, a Nobel Prize-winning economist, writing for the New York Times. Let me say that again. He's a Nobel Prize-winning economy, and here's what he said. The stock market will plummet and never recover from the election of Donald Trump. So we are very probably looking at a global recession with no end in sight. You know, some are so blinded by their hatred of Donald Trump that they forget decades of training in their own field. And as America surges forward with more jobs than people to fill them, with African American and Hispanic unemployment the lowest in history, with millions coming off of food stamps because they want to work, the left, well, they rant and protest and create chaos. They throw people out of restaurants and off television shows. They even go to church and say that God sent them to destroy Donald Trump. The left doesn't care about our economic success. All they want to do is make noise. But it's nothing more than background noise, white noise. The truth? Nobody's paying attention to them. Donald Trump's numbers continue to increase. His popularity just keeps going up. And after he met with Putin and was accused of everything from collusion to treason, an offense, by the way, punishable by death, his numbers continue to go up. When are they going to realize that their yelling and screaming is nothing but a distraction? Nobody cares. We care about food on the table, paying the rent, the mortgage, paying for kids' clothing for school. But no, they want to talk about whores and porn stars, or about a lawyer who they're squeezing so tight he'll confess to sinking the Titanic. And yet, despite a media focused on a whack-a-mole Trump-Russia collusion nonsense and the haters continuing to hate, the outsider president has thundered forward with his America First agenda. And with a kryptonite-proof aura of invincibility, the 45th outsider president, often working without the support of his own party, has produced a GDP that no one thought possible, 4.1%, and we are on track to hit the highest average growth rate in over 13 years. What do you got to say to that, Barack, Hillary, and all you geniuses? We're flying, folks. This is the America Donald Trump had in mind when he asked us, what do you have to lose? And that's my open. Tell me what you think on my Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hashtag Judge Jeanine. And if you love my opens, you'll love my new book, Liars, Leakers, and Liberals, The Case Against the Anti-Trump Conspiracy. It's a New York Times #1 bestseller. So go out and get your copy if you haven't already. And if you have, I thank you.